Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. President Muhammadu Buhari launches National Security Strategy 2019, spelling out measures to tackle present and anticipated challenges confronting the nation. House Committee on Appropriation lays 2020 budget before House of Representatives, raising the initial proposal by 260 billion naira. Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Olisa Abakuba, disagrees with call for restructuring, insisting that the issue be put on hold. And law experts testify that President Donald Trump's action require him to be removed from office, describing his efforts to ask for help from a foreign nation as a crime. For more information on our top stories and others, please visit our website. It's channelstv.com. YouTube.com/channelsweb has videos of all our shows. The crisis rocking the Edo State House of Assembly is far from over, as the Assembly has declared vacant the 12 seats of the members-elect who have refused to present themselves for the inauguration into the 7th Assembly, as well as 2 others who did not meet the mandatory sitting requirements to continue as members of the House. The Deputy Speaker of the House, Yekini Idaye, representing Akoko Edo State Constituency 1, said the resolution was reached during today's plenary. According to him, the seats declared vacant are Esako West 1, Esako West 2, Onwa East, Onwa West, Esako Central, Esako East, and Esako Central. The others are Unwode, Oredo East, Oredo West, Ego, Ovia Northeast 1, Ovia Northeast 2, and Ovia Southwest 1. He said 2 of those affected from Oredo East and Onwa East were sworn in but failed to meet the mandatory 181-day sitting requirement for a member in a calendar year. From state to federal lawmakers, the Senate Joint Committee on Navy, Maritime and Finance is threatening to issue a warrant of arrest on the Director General of NIMASA, Mr. Dakuku Peterside, if he fails to appear before the committee on Thursday, that's tomorrow, December the 5th. The chairman of the committee, Senator George Sekibo, issued this warning during the continuation of the investigative hearing into the activities of a private security firm, Ocean Marine Services Limited, and other security agencies.
Now, NIMASA, thank God you are here, so that we don't need to go and publish in the papers that the DG NIMASA should be here in person tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And we repeat, if he doesn't come, we will issue a warrant.
In the meantime, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime has commended Nigeria's implementation of the UN Convention Against Corruption, identified by several successes following the ratification of the report since 2014. These strides include the establishment of anti-corruption units across government ministries, departments as well as agencies, provision for civil society consultations in the adoption of the national budget, as well as the adoption of the Freedom of Information Act. The report also specifically recognized Nigeria's leadership in pursuing asset recovery cases and its readiness in sharing its wealth of experience with other countries.
We are gathered here today to launch the second implementation review report of Nigeria against the requirements of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption as we embark on the decade of action to accelerate implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. Corruption and insecurity are among the primary spoilers of sustainable development. Leaders around the world have agreed to set the ambitious goals of ending poverty in a single generation, providing access to health, education, social protection, and job opportunities to fight inequalities, as well as tackle climate change and protect the environment. Living up to these commitments and achieving the individual results will not be possible unless we manage to put corruption in check. It is high time we act decisively and jointly. The United Nations wants to hear from you. We want to know what you expect from the international community, regional bodies, governments, as well as individual ministries, departments, and agencies to prevent and counter corruption.
Let's go back to Abuja studios where Ibrahim Adra is standing by with more stories. Hello, Ibrahim.
Hello, Melinda. Thanks for joining us. A federal high court sitting in Lagos has ordered the federal government to recover all monies collected by former governors, now serving as ministers and members of the National Assembly, as pensions since leaving office as state chief executives. Justice Oluremi Ogutoyibo also directed the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice to challenge the legality of state pension laws permitting former governors and other public officials to collect such pensions. Justice Ogutoyibo delivered the judgment following an application for an order of mandamus brought by the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP. The judge had disagreed with the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, who had maintained that the state's laws duly passed cannot be challenged. She insisted that the Attorney General should be interested in the legality or validity of any law in Nigeria and how such laws affect or will affect Nigerians. The judgment comes against the backdrop of the recent decision of the Zamfara State House of Assembly to abolish the pension for former governors and other public officers in the state. The enactment of the pension laws had attracted condemnation from Nigerians, who have described it, or rather the trend, as outrageous and morally indefensible by the former governor officials. Meanwhile, the Federal High Court in Abuja has dismissed some suits seeking the removal of Mr. Ibrahim Magu as the acting chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. The plaintiffs had sought Magu's removal on the grounds that the Senate had twice rejected his appointment and refused to screen him to take up the position in a substantive capacity. They argued that Mr. Magu, who has been acting as the EFCC chairman since 2015, having been rejected by the Senate, is not fit to continue to serve in that capacity. Delivering judgment, Justice Ijoma Ojukwu held that there was a lacuna in the law which has not provided for the time frame within which a person could act as EFCC's chairman. She noted that it had given the president, as the appointer, quote, the proverbial yam and the knife to do as he pleases with the appointment of the EFCC chairman. Now, from the court to infrastructure, 2 roads to be constructed at the cost of over 4 billion naira have been approved by the Federal Executive Council at its weekly deliberations today. The meeting, presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari, also gave the go-ahead for the procurement of animal vaccines. The Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, and his Agriculture and Natural Resources counterpart briefed State House correspondents at the end of that meeting. And talking about roads, the 72 billion naira 34-kilometer road under construction by the Dangote Group will be ready in 2020. According to the Director Highway Southwest, Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, the construction along the Oshodi-Apapa Expressway has reached a 20 to 23% completion. It says the federal government is welcoming dependable partners in road construction.
Road is the major mode of transport system in Nigeria. The Dangote Group of companies partners with the federal government on a tax relief basis to construct some roads. This Anthony Oshodi Road is 8 inches thick with heavy reinforcements. According to the Director of Highways Southwest Zone, Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, Olufunsho Adebiyi, he says he is impressed with the speed and level of work done.
We are impressed with what is going on. Impressed partly because the quality of work is high, and partly because the speed at which the work is going is equally encouraging, and partly because quality assurance mechanism is being put in place in ensuring that there is no failure. The government is welcoming private practice. They are welcoming all this, but we want to make sure that only dependable people, those who has the resources to back it up, are giving such.
He adds that the federal government is embarking on a total reconstruction of roads across the country.
The federal government is going through total reconstruction of all these trunk A1 to A9, And you will agree with me that it cut through several states. You pass through Lagos to Oyo, to Kwara, to Niger, and probably Kaduna, and all that.
For the Chief Corporate Communications Officer of Dangote Industries, Anthony Chejina, this project is one of the ways that Dangote Group of Companies is giving back to the country.
We must have compassion for the country. You must have the mind of doing good. So, and if you don't have that mindset, then you are not prepared to do good business for the country. So, and that is part of our own strategy. So we do good, and doing good means doing good business.
The construction comes with traffic congestion, but then there are high hopes of a better result.
I must commend the quality of the work. You can see even the casting alone is very good, and I believe this very road will stand the test of time. So it's a welcome one. Development is all we want.
Engineers at site say the road is expected to last for about 50 years when it's complete.
When the news at 10 returns, law experts testify that President Trump's actions require him to be removed from office, describing his efforts to solicit help from a foreign nation as a crime. That and other foreign stories from around the world in 5. Join us again.